Chapter 899. Lu Foran's heart was proud, but her face was still modest. It is all because of the Emperor's magnanimity that he took pity on Consort Jing, so that our entire family could bask in the light. What is Foran saying? The other short Foran smiled. Consort Jing has gained favor, and the residence's second young lady has married to a military officer. One heard that she is pregnant with twins. One must let us bask in the good fortune. Lu Foran shook her head and said with a face of a headache, "Is there not still number 3 and 4th lady? These two are really giving me a headache." The round-faced Foran quickly called out exaggeratedly, "Foran still has a headache. Third young master is a talented person and has outstanding martial arts at such a young age. One do not know which young lady would have the good fortune to marry him in the future. As for 4th lady, there is no need to talk about her. She is like an immortal and is proficient in the 4 arts. Is there a need to worry about this?" Foran is overpraising. Lu Foran shook her head and smiled bitterly. "Forget about number 3. It is understandable for males to train for a few years, but 4th lady's marriage cannot be delayed. Now it really gives me a headache. Mother, you are making things up about me in front of other Furans again." A delicate female voice suddenly rang out. Everyone turned around and saw a young girl in the middle of the hall. This girl looked to be about 16 or 17 years old. She was wearing a light purple dress embroidered with butterfly patterns and 100 birds, and a cherry-colored lotus dress with a simple silk vest. Her hair was in a bun with a butterfly-shaped pearl hairpin. This young female was born to be charming and moving, and in addition to living like a princess, she had the natural brilliance of a rich young lady. With the red hairpin surrounding her, she suddenly looked radiant, as if she was a graceful butterfly fairy in the spring, and was very eye-catching. This was the 4th young lady of the Lu family, Consort Jing's 4th younger sister, Luan. Lu Foran touched her head in pain. "How would I dare to make things up about our young lady Wan?" Luan pursed her lips and no longer spoke. She stood in the hall, and there were other young ladies of official families in the hall, but compared to her, they seemed dull. Luan expression was arrogant as she looked around and said, "Why is that Ming Chi's young lady Shen not here?" Her voice was not low, and all the Furans and young ladies in the hall heard it and started whispering. Luan addressed Shen Miao as young lady of the Shen family of Ming Chi, but refused to address her as Consort Ray. This explained a lot of problems. In the beginning, everyone said that the 4th young lady of the Lu family was going to marry into the residence of Prince Rue to be a Qin Wang Fei. Luan was also very satisfied with Prince Rue, but who knew that Shen Miao would appear out of nowhere. The Lu family was unhappy, and Luan was even more unreconciled. Today's Saisha banquet had an ulterior motive. However, most of these madams were just here to watch the show. Perhaps they still wanted to be on good terms with Luan. That young lady of the Shen family was in the limelight now, but she had no roots or foundation in Longyi. Who knew how far she could float? Prince Rue was in the prime of his youth. How long would he spend on a woman? All in all, that young lady of the Shen family did not look like she would have a good ending. Madame Lu said with a smile. Perhaps he was delayed by something on the road. "She is really putting on airs," Luan said unhappily. "The other foreign and young mistresses are all punctual. Only she is late. Are the rules of Ming Chi dead?" Just as she was speaking, one saw a young lady with a round face appearing outside. Everyone did not know when she came in. That young lady smiled. "Excuse me, is this the Saisha banquet?" Madame Lu was startled for a moment before smiling. "Exactly. You are Prince Rue's consort?" "This servant is not." That smiling young lady said, "The consort is here." As she spoke, she turned back and helped a young female in. Chapter 900. One did not know if it was because of the round-faced girl's contrast, or because the Rue Wang Fei in everyone's imagination was too unbearable. In short, when that young female walked in, everyone was stunned for a moment. She wore a phoenix tail dress with lotus-green butterflies and a white magnolia robe with purple and tassels in a bun. It cannot be said to be very gorgeous, but it was definitely not simple. Longyi official family's young ladies liked to eat and dress up the most, but her outfit complemented each other and looked very tasteful. On her head was only an embroidered phoenix-shaped hair ornament. It was a neat one, but it made the entire person look luxurious. This young female had crescent moon eyebrows, clear almond eyes, a small and straight nose tip, rosy lips, and extremely delicate features. She looked like a very gentle person, but her chin was slightly raised, her back was ramrod straight, and she walked over with a slight smile on her face. Every step she took made people's hearts tremble. Involuntarily, people couldn't help but look up to her, as if she was an unattainable noble. Speaking of which, it was strange that today this Rue Wang Fei and fourth Lu young lady both wore purple dresses. Fourth Lu young lady's purple was light, and Rue Wang Fei's purple was deep. A young female wearing light purple would look gentle and lively, but wearing dark purple would make one feel old and stiff. But today Shun Miao's purple was like it was tailor-made for her. There was a kind of luxurious beauty that could suppress the crowd. In comparison, fourth young Miss Lu's attire was like that of an actress in a proper venue. It was somewhat unpresentable. Lu Wanner had always paid attention to this point on normal days and had always been used to being the center of attention. She did not expect that the limelight would be snatched by others today, especially when this person was not others but Shun Miao, who had snatched her position as Rue Wang Fei. Lu Foren's eyes flashed and smiled. Wang Fei has finally arrived. Furens are all waiting for you. Shun Miao smiled gently and said unhurriedly, "One did not think that Furens would come so early." That invitation stated the time, and I told His Highness about it. His Highness even let me leave earlier so as to not eat. One did not think that it was still late, and it is my fault. It's all His Highness's fault. He didn't remind me that I should have left earlier. It should have been 7 o'clock would have been the best. Lu Foren's heart jumped as she did not think that Shun Miao would say it out without concealing anything. Sure enough, when the words were said, the surrounding Furens looked at her differently. Shun Miao was after all an outsider. Even though those Furens in Shun Miao and the Lu family were biased towards the Lu family. But to use this kind of childish, clumsy trick was always a little ridiculous in the eyes of others. Lu Foren was also somewhat regretful. She originally wanted to give Shun Miao a show of strength, but she would not do anything to the invitation. But since Lu Wanner insisted on doing so, she could only do as she was told. Now, when Shun Miao's words fell into other people's ears, they understood that these Furens' invitations were not written at the same time. Looking at the Lu family's eyes, it was always a little funny. If Shun Miao were to return and speak of this matter to Prince Rue, with Prince Rue being such an astute person, how would he not understand once he heard it? If he was dissatisfied with the Lu family because of this, Lu Foren would feel that this move was not good. Lu Wanner, however, could not see Shun Miao doing well and sized Shun Miao up before saying, "Why did Qin Wang Fei not send anyone to inform and come in yourself? Don't say that we are neglectful." It was actually somewhat impolite to enter the residence without even someone to inform. Shun Miao looked at Lu Wanner and smiled. "This is exactly what I wanted to say. If your residence does not have enough manpower, there is actually no need to be so forceful. Such a big residence, but there are no guards at the door. It is really somewhat dangerous." She smiled gently. "I'll let the guards of the Prince of First Rank's residence guard the door, so that there would not be strange people who would take advantage of the loopholes to enter." Chapter 901. When Lu Wanner and Lu Foren heard it, they almost vomited blood. What was going on? Originally, they wanted to say that Shun Miao was rude, and naturally, there was no one guarding the Lu residence's doors. But with Shun Miao's words, it was as if their Lu residence was so poor that they could not even afford to hire a servant to guard the door. They even let the Prince of First Rank residence's guards guard the door. If the commoners outside saw this, what would they think? Shun Miao said cordially, "Foren need not thank me. If there is any need in the future, it is possible to let His Highness send a few men over to the residence." Sending a few men? Who knew if the people sent were spies or not? The residents of Prince Rue dared to send, but they did not dare to accept. The surrounding Furens also understood that this Rue Wang Fei was not a soft persimmon that could be easily pinched. Originally, the Lu family's arrangement was to destroy Shen Miao's prestige and make Shen Miao make a mistake. To make a mistake and say some ambiguous words, it was enough to make this Rui Wang Fei's heart lose some confidence. Who knew that until now? Not only did she not fall into a disadvantageous position, she even ruthlessly attacked the Lu family. Lu Foran forced a smile and said, "Wang Fei, please take a seat first." It was an inconspicuous position that was arranged for Shen Miao. Shen Miao declined to comment. She came here today not to fight over anything, and even more not to quarrel. It was just to show one's attitude and take the opportunity to see some things clearly. Octagon Anise quietly leaned over to Shen Miao's ear and said, "That round-faced foreign is the Secretary of Military Affairs foreign, Yuan foreign, and is on good terms with the Lu family. The short foreign is the Minister of Revenues foreign, Wei foreign, and is in-laws with the Yi family and has a good relationship with the Lu family. The leftmost yellow-clad foreign, Xianggong, is the left disciple of the current court. You also know her youngest son, which is young Master Ji. Ji Yushu's biological mother?" Shen Miao looked towards that Ji foreign. Ji foreign had a very dignified appearance and seemed to have a completely different temperament from Ji Yushu. Shen Miao thought that these Furins were either rich or noble. No wonder the Lu family's influence in Long Yi was not small, and Imperial Consort Jing was so arrogant that she did not even put Empress Xianda in her eyes. It was because one could enjoy the shade with a big tree. Since these aristocratic families had to give Lu Jia face, it was obvious that the Lu family had a lot of connections with them. If Emperor Yong Lu and Xie Jingxing wanted to completely suppress the Lu clan, it would not be an easy task. The interests of the Lu family involved many other official families. If the Lu family fell, many of the families related to it would suffer calamity. Even if it was for their own survival, those aristocratic families wouldn't just watch the Lu family fall from power. Just as she was thinking about it, a person slowly walked over and sat down beside her. Octagonal Anise immediately stood up straight and stopped explaining to Shen Miao. Shen Miao turned back, and that dainty and somewhat arrogant fourth Lu young lady was sitting beside her. Lu Wanner said, "Rui Wang Fei, can I take the liberty to ask you a question?" Shen Miao said, "Please speak." "How long have you known Prince Rui?" Lu Wanner asked. Shen Miao laughed in her heart, and more or less knew why this Lu Wanner came over. Speaking of which, Xie Jingxing spent his youth in Mingqi, and other than Emperor Yong Lu and Xie Jingxing's own people, no one else would know about it. The people of the Great Liang only thought that Xie Jingxing had followed his master to travel around to various countries, and his whereabouts were very mysterious. Then Xie Jingxing's acquaintance with her should have started when she returned to the Ding capital from the Shaochun city and got to know Xie Jingxing at the tribute banquet. At the very most, it was not even a year. She said, "Not even a year." Hearing this, Lu Wanner smiled. Her smile was both proud and disdainful. Lu Wanner said, "So it was not even a year. In this case, one think that Rui Wang Fei still have many things that you do not understand about Prince Rui." Shen Miao smiled. "Fourth young lady seems to understand His Highness very well. Do not mind." Lu Wanner said, "I know your Shen family status in Mingqi, but our Lu family status in Long Yi is only higher than your Shen family status in the Ding capital. Prince Rui is a very good person, and in the Great Liang, almost every young lady wants to marry into the residence of Prince Rui. However, an ordinary family background is not good enough for him." Lu Wanner took a glance at Shen Miao and said, "Rui Wang Fei, Prince Rui is a very ambitious person. Ever since he returned to Long Yi, he started to make a big career in the court. This kind of person would not be constrained by the sentiments of a man and woman. What can you help him with? Now, naturally, there is deep affection, but in the future, when you are no longer useful to him, he would still abandon you like a pair of worn-out shoes." Shen Miao's heart was surprised. She originally thought that Lu Wanner was an innocent and arrogant young lady who did not know anything and was only greedy for the moon in the water. But hearing her words, she discovered that this Lu Wanner could see the situation very clearly, and she even stated some of the interests. "So," Shen Miao asked. His Majesty has the intention to let me be Prince Rui's pinwife, but a prince will not have two Qin Wang Fei. Lu Wanner said as if it was bestowing. So you will be the concubine, and I will be the wife. Chapter 902. So you will be the concubine, and I will be the wife. Shen Miao looked at Lu Wanner in astonishment. She did not know where did Lu Wanner's benevolent tone come from. Originally, after listening to Lu Wanner's words, she felt that the Lu family were all intelligent, and it was not fake. Now, with these words, Shen Miao was somewhat unclear of Lu Wanner's background. To say such words so openly, was Lu Wanner really stupid or pretending to be stupid? If young Lady Lu has the intention, you can go and explain to His Highness yourself. Shen Miao smiled gently. It is useless to say these things to me. Naturally, I know. Lu Wanner looked at her with contempt. The reason why I am saying these to you today is to hope that you have self-knowledge and take the initiative to talk to His Highness the Prince of First Rank about being willing to be a concubine. Shen Miao almost laughed out. She slightly raised the corner of her lips and said, I cannot do this. What did you say? Lu Wanner's eyes widened as if she did not expect that Shen Miao would reject. Their voices were a little loud, and the surrounding Furins looked over at them. Shen Miao did not hide it and smiled. I will not do the matter of being willing to be a concubine. I will not do the matter of widely accepting concubines for my husband and spreading out branches and leaves. In the beginning, when Prince Rui came to my Shan residence to propose marriage, he had said that the inner courtyard of the prince residence would not accept other females. If it was not so, I would not travel thousands of miles to marry to Longyi. The surrounding Furins were dumbstruck when they heard it. The world was like this, and it was not fair between men and women. In a male's inner courtyard, most of them had 3 or 4 wives. No matter if it was Great Liang or Ming Qi, it was not that there were no other couples, but it was rare. An ordinary male would not be able to withstand the temptation, much less a rich family, official's family, or the sons of the imperial family. Prince Rui was handsome and distinguished with a high position of power. He was young, but his status was outstanding, and the world he faced was full of flowers. For a person like him, how could he only have one woman in his life? This young lady from the Shun family of Ming Qi really had such a big face and really did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. Lu Wanner was so angry that her face almost turned green as she said word by word. Qian Wang Fei Rui, this is being easily jealous. When a female is easily jealous, one's virtue is lacking. Shen Miao smiled. Most likely so. I have always been easily jealous. If Prince Rui hadn't raised this condition, I probably wouldn't have been moved. Lu Wanner was so angry that she couldn't speak. Shen Miao's attitude was like a thorn, making one unable to make a move. The surrounding Furins were also surprised. Shen Miao had just arrived at Longyi, and not only did she not tuck her tail between her legs and behave lowly, she was so arrogant that she even dared to offend the Lu family that even Emperor Yong Lu was slightly afraid of. One did not know where she got her courage from. Was she really that stupid to such an extent? Of course, Shen Miao was not afraid. Even if Emperor Yong Lu was not satisfied with her and wanted to arrange another marriage for Xie Jingxing, he would not marry Lu Wanner to Xie Jingxing. Even though Lu Wan said that her marriage to Xie Jingxing would help Xie Jingxing's career, not to mention that Xie Jingxing was not someone who relied on a woman's ability to climb up, even Emperor Yong Lu did not dare to easily allow Xie Jingxing to marry into the Lu family. The matter of Jing Fei was most likely a helpless move. But if Lu Wanner also entered into the residence of Prince Rui, then the 2 brothers of the imperial family of the Great Liang would have a relationship with the Lu family. It was not a good thing for the relatives to monopolize power. Fu Xiu could use Shen Miao to tie the Shun family together, because the Shun family was loyal in nature, but the Lu family already had wild ambitions. Logically, Lu was not Emperor Yong Li's choice. Now, that Shen Miao strongly rejected Lu Wanner's proposal. One feared that it would be passed to Emperor Yong Li's ears, and it would be in accordance with Emperor Yong Li's intentions. Chapter 903. When Lu Foren and Lu Wanner froze, they heard a chuckle from the opposite side. Qin Wangfei is indeed a sentimental person. Prince Rue is young, but values relationships and righteousness. It is a rare male in the world. Shen Miao looked towards the person who spoke. That person was sitting beside Ji Yushu's mother and was a slightly thin foreign. She wore a brown embroidered skirt, and her skin was slightly dark. Her eyebrows were upright, but because of her age, they were sunken, making her look somewhat unapproachable. Her eyes were somewhat long, and when she looked at people, it was as if she wanted to see through them, making one uncomfortable. With one look, one would know that she was a shrewd and serious person. Octagonal Anise took the time, when Shun Miao was pouring tea, and quietly whispered in her ear, "This is Yi Furen from the residence of Prime Minister." With just one sentence, Shun Miao understood. When Yi family, Wu Lu family. It could be assumed that this Yi Furen was one of the two great families in Long Yi, the Yi family from the residence of Prime Minister. Different from the Lu family's arrogance. This Yi family's foreign looked more restrained than Lu foreign, but it made Shun Miao feel that it was harder to deal with. Yi foreign looked at Shun Miao and suddenly smiled. Both Prince Rue and his wife have a deep relationship. It seems that in a few days' time, Qin Wangfei will also follow the imperial hunt. Shun Miao smiled. This still needs to be discussed with His Highness. She could not casually respond to random words. Today at the Kai Xiao banquet, everyone in the room did not come with good intentions. She dare not take it lightly. Wangfei has just arrived and do not know the wonders of the imperial hunt. There are many interesting things, and Wangfei can join the fun. Yi Furen continued. Lu Furen and Lu Wanner did not speak. Today, they were blocked by Shun Miao and were very unhappy in their hearts. Now that Yi Furen spoke, they did not have the intention to help. Shun Miao looked at that Yi Furen and actually wanted to force her to agree to the hunting. Madame Ji, who was sitting beside Madame Yi, smiled and said, "Everyone, please don't force Princess Rue. Princess Rue is still young. Just like what Madame Yi said, she's a newcomer and I'm afraid she's still a little shy. Everyone in the hunting ground is familiar with each other. Naturally, we have to think about it." She took the initiative to help Shun Miao out. Shun Miao looked over in surprise, but Ji Furen smiled and nodded at her. Madame Ji's husband was the left disciple of the imperial court, and his official position was not low. Naturally, the other madams would not refute her words. When Madame Yi heard this, she did not continue to be overbearing. She only looked at Shun Miao inquisitively, causing Shun Miao to frown slightly. This Kai Xiao banquet passed by indifferently, and most likely Lu Wanner was angered by Shun Miao to the point that she immediately turned and left. The remaining Lu Furen treated Shun Miao indifferently. Since the host of the Kai Xiao banquet was Lu Furen, the other Furens naturally followed Lu Furen's footsteps and deliberately ignored Shun Miao. However, Shun Miao was often neglected in Ming Qi when she was young, so she did not take it to heart. As she drank her tea, she listened to Octagon Anise explain the relationship between the Furens, and she secretly remembered it. Not only did these snubs not affect her, but it also made her remember the relationship between these people more fully. When she left, there was naturally no one to send her off. Just as he was about to board the carriage, he was unexpectedly stopped by someone. Looking back, it was Ji Furen. Ji Yushu's biological mother had a dignified and amiable temperament, and her appearance was somewhat similar to Ji Yushu. She looked at Shun Miao and smiled. "You were told me that at that time in Ming Qi's Ding capital, he was indebted to Princess's care. Today this son will represent you, to thank Princess." Shun Miao's heart blushed and repeatedly said that she did not dare. In the end, it was because she made use of Ji Yushu's Feng Xian pawn shop to accomplish a lot of things. Chapter 904. Seeing that there was no one around, Madame Ji leaned closer and whispered, "Princess, you saw it today. Madame Lu's fourth young mistress is determined to marry into Prince Rue's residence. However, you don't have to take her words to heart. If it were possible, fourth young mistress would have become Princess Rue long ago. As for the royal hunt that Madame Yi mentioned today, you should inform Prince Rue about it later. There's more to it than meets the eye. Princess, don't be tricked by others. Seeing that there were already other Furins coming out of the Liu family's doors, Ji Foreign said, "It is inconvenient for me to say the rest. If Wang Fei is free, you can come over to the residence. You're not familiar with Long Yi, so I can help you put in a word." She then bid farewell to Shun Miao and hurriedly left. On the way back, Shun Miao kept thinking about the day's events. She didn't take Lu Wanner's words to heart. For some reason, she felt that Madame Yi was extremely annoying. Shun Miao asked Octagon Anise, "I didn't see Madame Ye's daughter at the banquet today. How many young mistresses are there in the Yi family? Why didn't she bring any of them out?" Octagon Anise was stunned and shook his head. "There are no young mistresses in the Yi family. How can there be no young mistresses?" Shun Miao frowned. "This is a fact that everyone in Long Yi knows." Octagon Anise said, "Prime Minister Yi and Madame Yi were a couple when they were young. They had a daughter when they got married, but she died young. Madame Yi was too worried and her relationship with Prime Minister Yi faded. Prime Minister Yi later took in a concubine who gave birth to a son. He is the current young Master Yi of the Prime Minister's residence." Shun Miao frowned. "There are no other children in the Prime Minister's residence?" Octagon Anise shook his head. After Prime Minister Yi had young Master Yi, he was assassinated on a trip and injured the root of his offspring. It was impossible for him to have children in the future. Shun Miao was astonished. How could a high-ranking family like the Yi family only have one son? She asked, "Doesn't that mean that the Yi family only has one son?" "That's not true. The concubine was weak when young Master Yi was born. However, some people say that the Yi family strangled the concubine to death. Young Master Yi was raised under Madame Ye's name after he was born." However, Octagon Anise paused. Octagon Anise continued, "Even though young Master Yi is the son of the first wife." "Why is that?" Shun Miao asked curiously. "Even though he wasn't her biological son, under the circumstances that the Yi family didn't have any other children, Madame Yi could raise him under her name. If Madame Yi treated this legitimate son better, her life would be much better in the future. Young Master Yi was born with a congenital disease. His legs and feet are unable to walk. This kind of person will never be able to become an official in the future. So, some people say that the Yi family will decline in this generation," Octagonal Anise explained. Shun Miao then understood in her heart. So he was a cripple. No wonder Madame Yi looked down on him. Thinking of this, his heart lit up. The Wen Yi family, the Wu Lu family, and the Lu family all sent Jing Fei into the palace. Why didn't the Yi family? It wasn't that the Yi family didn't have ambition, but because the Yi family didn't have any extra daughters. He was afraid that if he sent his relative's daughter over, it would be difficult to control her. Then the current situation, Shun Miao could roughly guess Emperor Yongli's plan. In terms of heirs, the Ye family cannot compete with the Liu family. If they form an alliance with the Liu family, even if one day their ambitions are fulfilled, only the Liu family will benefit. People always have bad habits. Why is it that both of us are aristocratic families, but in the end, you're the only one who is strong and I am declining? It's better for me to turn against them. Emperor Yong Lu probably wants to provoke an internal conflict between the Liu and Yi families. He wants to subdue the Yi family and then deal with the Liu family, which holds military power. This will be much easier. Chapter 905. It was just that the Yi family and the Liu family had been on good terms for so many years, and their interests were intertwined. The Yi family had the Liu family's weakness, but the Liu family also had the Yi family's weakness. It was not easy to drive a wedge between them. As she was thinking about these things, Shun Miao did not even notice that the carriage had returned to the residence of Prince Rue. It was only when Octagon Anise called out, "Master." Someone flicked her forehead and asked, "What are you thinking about?" Shun Miao then saw Xie Jingxing. Today he came back early and was wearing a dark red official robe with an imposing appearance. Shun Miao quivered and pulled his sleeves as she hurriedly walked towards the study. "Just in time, I have something to ask you." Xie Jingxing was first stunned and then helplessly allowed her to pull him forward. Octagon Anise and Guyu were dumbfounded. Octagon Anise grinned and said, Madam is really proactive. Guyu said, that is how it should be. Uncle Tang appeared from behind and said faintly, What are you looking at? Get to work. Octagon Aniseed and Guyu stuck out their tongues and quickly walked away. Uncle Tang looked at the tightly shut door and shook his head. He sighed. There's not even a drop of blood. How can it be considered as initiative? In the room, Shun Miao then told Xie Jingxing about what happened today, and Xie Jingxing said, Imperial hunt. Shun Miao nodded. It seems to be somewhat unusual. Every year on the second day of the 6th month, the imperial family hunt is a rule passed down by the late emperor. Xie Jingxing lazily said, But imperial older brother and I will only wander around outside and will not go in. Why? Shun Miao asked. It's dangerous. Xie Jingxing lowered his voice. Shun Miao was startled. When Xie Jingxing saw her expression, he smiled instead and raised his brows, scared. What is there for me to be afraid of? Shun Miao looked at him. Your meaning is that someone will take action against His Majesty and you? The imperial hunt is filled with imperial guards. Who would have the guts to do that? You have seen Mo Yujun before. Xie Jingxing suddenly changed the topic. That is my people and has nothing to do with the Great Liang army. Imperial older brother also knows about it. Do you know why you want to raise a private army? Because the imperial family's army can't be trusted? Shun Miao asked quickly, but her heart was filled with disbelief. Xie Jingxing snapped his fingers. Shun Miao was speechless. The common people said that Emperor Yonglu was a wise ruler of the Great Liang, and all of the Great Liang sons revered him. It seemed that the common people were like this, but the military officers and ministers did not seem to be as loyal as the rumors said. The Great Liang's imperial family did not scheme against each other, and what came were external troubles. The armies of the imperial family were passed down from generation to generation. In other words, the troops passed down by the late emperor were not willing to be used by the current Emperor Yonglu. Thinking of Xie Jingxing's cold tone towards the late emperor, Shun Miao's heart was somewhat curious. She hesitated for a moment before looking at Xie Jingxing and asked, Speaking of which, at that time you were stranded in Ming Qi's Ding capital. What was the hidden story behind it? Hearing that, Xie Jingxing's gaze changed slightly. Shun Miao was sitting beside him, and she could feel the coldness of his emotions at this moment. After a moment, Xie Jingxing smiled and stretched out his hand to touch Shun Miao's head. Why do you have so many questions? Do you want to know my secrets again? If you want to know, you can exchange for it yourself. He smiled ambiguously. Your body is fine too. Shun Miao rolled her eyes at him. Xie Jingxing said again, But you do not seem to be angry at Lu Wanner's words at all. He was slightly dissatisfied. Someone covets your husband, and you do not fly into a rage? Shun Jiao, you really have no conscience. Shun Miao said, Anyway, you will not agree to it. Is it not so? The Lu family is full of ambition, and most likely you do not have the heart to raise a poisonous snake by your side. Chapter 906. Xie Jingxing laughed out loud and stared at her. Do I not have a poisonous snake by my side now, and it is a snake bell? This person could not be serious for more than 3 sentences. Shun Miao was too lazy to talk to him and said, Yi family. What do you think of the Yi family? Xie Jingxing pondered. The Yi family are smarter than the Lu family and know how to endure. Perhaps because of the children, they are not as arrogant as the Lu family. Imperial older brother and I plan to start from the Yi family and provoke the Yi and Lu families. Shun Miao's fingers shrunk. She did not know why, but when facing Yi Foreign today, she had an indescribable feeling that the Yi family was not as easy to deal with as imagined. It was just that this thought came out of nowhere, and she herself did not know what was going on. But Xie Jingxing saw the strangeness in her expression and asked, You seem to have something to say? Shun Miao shook her head. Most likely she was being overly suspicious. She then asked, Will you participate in the Imperial City hunt this time? Ji Foreign told me not to be schemed against by others, which makes me feel strange. Xie Jingxing's expression turned slightly cold. This time, even if you do not want to go, you have to follow. Why? This year is the 60th year celebration set by the late emperor. In the Imperial City Hunt, Imperial older brother must hunt a male lion in the hunting grounds to show that the weather will be good in the coming year and that he will be a wise ruler of the Great Liang. Male lion? Shun Miao said. This is considered a ferocious beast. In normal hunting grounds, one's safety was naturally the most important. After all, those who came to hunt were high-ranking officials and nobles, and it would not be good if one's life was injured. There is no need to fear wild rabbits or foxes for a lion, as one would lose one's life if one was not careful. There is no need to fear wild beasts. Xie Jingxing's lips hooked up and his smile was somewhat cold. Wild beasts will not secretly shoot arrows and are much safer than humans. Only the Imperial City Guards can be brought in. This is the rules set by the late Emperor, and it is hard to say if the Imperial City Guards are loyal or not. Xie Jingxing raised his brows. So you have to understand that this is a trap that the late Emperor left for us two brothers. A trap for the world to see, and even if one knows what it is, Imperial older brother, and I have no choice. He then looked at Shun Miao, who had a worried expression, and pinched her face. But do not worry. Nothing will happen to you. Even though you will follow in the name of the imperial family's wife, you will not need to enter the field. Shun Miao asked, Do you have confidence? An ominous premonition flashed across her heart, so much so that when she saw Xie Jingxing's joking expression, she was unable to relax. Xie Jingxing stared at her and slowly shook his head. No. Shun Miao's heart tightened. Xie Jingxing smiled. I lied to you. Shun Miao glared at him angrily. Xie Jingxing stretched his waist and leisurely said, After the hunt is over, I will tell you about the matters in the palace, so that you will not think about it all day. He smiled faintly and said, You are a member of the Xie family now, so you have to bear some responsibilities. Shun Miao's heart moved. Was Xie Jingxing planning to tell her his secret? Xie Jingxing's background. How did he end up in the Ming Cheese Ding capital? And also Emperor Yong Lu. Xie Jingxing's attitude towards the late emperor. One always felt that there was something to it. One could vaguely feel the heaviness in it. Xie Jingxing's temperament of talking about the past was not something that could be trained from ordinary experiences. Even though she was very gratified to know these secrets. But why did she have such an uneasy feeling in this imperial city hunt? It was as if something bad was going to happen. His heart was beating very fast. Even though he tried his best to calm himself down, he still couldn't stop feeling restless. She was silent and secretly clenched her fists. Chapter 907. In the Great Liang Imperial Palace, Empress Xianda was listening to her palace maid reporting about what happened at the Kaixia banquet. She heard Shun Miao say, I will not do the matter of willingly becoming concubine. I won't help my husband take in many concubines and spread the branches and leaves. At the beginning, when Prince Rui came to my Shun residence to propose marriage, he had said that the inner courtyard of the prince residence would not accept other females. If it was not so, I would not travel thousands of miles to marry to Longyi. When she said this, Empress Xianda could not help but laugh. She was born gentle and dignified and usually had a calm attitude. When she laughed like this, there was a bit of a young lady's charm. Why is Empress smiling so happily? Emperor Yong Li's voice was heard from outside. His expression was slightly cold as he stepped into the Wei Yang Palace. When he saw Empress Xianda's appearance, a strange look flashed in his eyes. Empress Xianda laughed happily and said, Kai Lian, repeat Qin Wang Fei's words to His Majesty again. The palace maid called Kai Lian quickly lowered her head and repeated Shun Miao's words that she had imitated in full detail. After listening, Emperor Yong Lu flung his sleeves and said angrily, Nonsense. No rules. Impudent to the extreme. Kai Lian jumped in shock and her body trembled. The anger of an emperor was not something that a little palace maid like her could bear. Empress Xianda looked at Emperor Yong Lu reproachfully and said to Kai Lian, Withdraw first. Kai Lian heaved a sigh of relief and quickly withdrew. Empress Xianda then smiled. Jing Xing, this wife has a temperament that is a match made in heaven and earth. Both are so frank and straightforward. Really a person of character. Xie Yuan's nonsense is one thing, but you also follow him to do so? Emperor Yong Lu looked at Empress Xianda with dissatisfaction. Empress seems to like Shun Miao very much. Long he had not seen such an interesting person for a long time. Empress Xianda smiled. She watched as Emperor Yong Lu sat down beside her. Her tone was still soft, but there was an uncontrollable admiration in her voice. You look like a smart person, but it is rare that you maintain such a sincere heart. Did not see any intelligence or sincerity. Emperor Yong Lu said coldly. It is just a female who racked her brains to curry favor. If that's really the case, with Jingxing's shrewdness, how could he not see it? How could he still like her? Emperor Yong Lu was unconcerned. Xie Yuan is still young and cannot differentiate right from wrong. That is why he is bewitched by women. Empress Xianda sighed. She knew that Emperor Yong Lu was stubborn and did not want to argue with him. So she said, in short, Ben Gong thinks that Jingxing's wife is a very good person. If he was really good, he wouldn't have boasted shamelessly in front of so many people and said something about jealousy. Emperor Yong Lu was very displeased. Does the Empress also think that it is right not to have children for your husband and take in concubines? Empress Xianda smiled faintly. That is naturally extremely good. It's just that very few women can do it. It is Princess Rui's good fortune to be able to do it. Empress, hearing this, Emperor Yong Lu frowned and looked at Empress Xianda with a stern gaze. This concubine has misspoken. Even though Empress Xianda said so, there was not much fear in her expression. She only said, it is better for His Majesty to worry less about the matters of Prince Rui's residence. Jingxing is a person with his own ideas. If one were to interfere more, it would attract his ill will. Jin has my own plans, Emperor Yong Lu said in a deep voice. After a moment of silence, Empress Xianda said, is His Majesty prepared for the Imperial City hunt next month? Only preparing one life. Emperor Yong Li's expression did not show any joy or anger. Zhen have already arranged everything. Can this concubine follow along? Empress Xianda asked. This concubine wants to follow by His Majesty's side. Zhen will bring consort Jing along. Emperor Yong Lu said, if something happens to Zhen, you still need to take care of the inner palace. Empress Xianda lowered her head and did not speak. After a moment, she raised her head again and smiled warmly. This concubine knows. The person that Zhen is most worried about is Xie Yuan. In the beginning when he was young, he hid in Mingqi and Zhen felt guilty towards him. But now that the world is settled, Zhen is still unable to fulfill the promise at the beginning. In the future, it is fine if he hates Zhen or understands Zhen's painstaking efforts. What Zhen can do is only this much. Emperor Yong Lu looked outside and said sadly, it is a pity that before Imperial Mother passed away, she was not able to see him once. If Imperial Mother knew in the underworld, she would be gratified to see how outstanding Jingxing is now. Empress Xianda persuaded. Empress, Emperor Yong Lu suddenly said. Empress Xianda looked at him and heard Emperor Yong Lu saying, it has been hard on you for so many years. It is this concubine's good fortune to be able to share His Majesty's worries. Empress Xianda smiled. Her expression was very calm, as though no matter how great the suffering was, it would not be able to defeat her elegance. She said, this concubine has accompanied His Majesty for decades. His Majesty treats this concubine very well. This concubine is already satisfied. Emperor Yong Lu looked at Empress Xianda and wanted to say something. His lips moved, but he did not say anything. He only looked at Empress Xianda with a complicated look before moving his eyes away and looked at the green smoke that was coming out of the bronze crane's beak. Empress Xianda also quietly looked at her sleeves, as though what was said just now was an ordinary household matter. It was just that her eyes were somewhat moist. Chapter 908. The weather on the second day of the 6th month was beautiful. It was obviously raining yesterday, but the sun was shining brightly on the second day. Even though the mountains were muddy, the recent weather had always been like this. Luo Tan stretched her waist. There was a sufficient amount of ice cubes in the room, so even though Long Ye's summer days were long and hot, the room was still very dry. The maid in the room asked her with a smile, "Where does young lady want to go today?" Luo Tan looked at the little things piled up like a small hill in the room and said, "Do not know. Return and ask Physician Gao. Gentleman Gao went out today and will only return tomorrow night." The maid said, "Let this servant inform young lady that if young lady want to go out, call a few guards in the residence, and this servant will follow you around. If there is anything that catches one's eye, this servant will just buy it back." "Something?" Luo Tan said. "Is there a patient that needs a consultation?" The maid smiled and did not answer. Luo Tan then waved her hands. "Since that is the case, then I will just casually stroll around." She had been in Longyi for almost a month, and these days she was with Gao Yang. Gao Yang himself said that a medical practitioner had no borders. When he was young, he traveled outside and settled down in Longyi for a period of time. This residence in Longyi was all his. Even though Luo Tan felt that this statement was somewhat strange, but seeing that everyone in the residence said the same, she did not have any more doubts. That person who sent the letter to Shun Miao was sent back by Gao Yang, saying that Shun Miao had promised to bring Luo Tan along and would take good care of Luo Tan. One did not know how Gao Yang lied, but after the journey, the people from the Shun family really did not come over. The matter with the Shun family was considered over. Luo Tan was calculating in her heart. After a few days of playing around in Longyi, she would go and find Shun Miao to explain everything clearly. If she were to say it now, she was afraid that Shun Miao and Prince Rue would send people to send her back. She had not had enough to eat and play, so how could she go back now? Luo Tan walked out of the door and into the courtyard. She heard some noises coming from the streets across the courtyard and asked the maid beside her, "What is so lively outside?" The maidservant laughed. "Today is the royal hunt, coinciding with the 60th year celebration. His Majesty will be going to the hunting grounds to hunt as well. The Imperial Guard will be arriving soon, and the commoners on the streets are cheering." Luo Tan liked to join in on the fun, so she said, "Then let's go and take a look. Will we be able to see Her Majesty's heavenly face?" The maid's expression changed slightly. She shook her head and said, "The streets are crowded with people. Moreover, His Majesty is in the canopy. He can't see it." Luo Tan was somewhat disinterested. The maidservant smiled and said, "This servant will go prepare some snacks for the journey. After this, wherever young lady wants to go, this servant will accompany you." "Go ahead," Luo Tan said. After the maid left, Luo Tan sneaked towards the door of the backyard and whispered, "I won't go out, but it won't be too much to take a look from afar." Her figure quickly disappeared from the courtyard. After Shun Miao finished grooming, she saw Xie Jingxing coming out after changing his clothes. Because there was a hunt today, he also wore a riding outfit that was convenient for hunting. Narrow sleeves, high collar, waist belt, and green boots embroidered with dark patterns. He looked very neat and refreshing, but because the riding outfit was very fitting, he looked like a reserved and elegant gentleman. Seeing Shun Miao, Xie Jingxing frowned. These clothes, after all, it was a hunting ground, and it was a hot summer day. Jingzhe was afraid that Shun Miao would faint from the heat, so she specially found fresh clothes for her. Below the skirt was a pair of silk trousers, and the trousers were wide and airy. The top part of the clothes was a thin layer of muslin, and only the chest area was a solid tube top. The lavender color was like a layer of cloud. Shun Miao usually looked dignified, but with this attire, there was a little bit of charm that was indescribably charming. Chapter 909. Shun Miao looked down at herself and said, "Not good looking." Xie Jingxing said, "The mountain wind is cold. It is better to wear an outer coat." "Shun Miao, how could there be a cold wind in the June weather? Moreover, ye had always been warm." Xie Jingxing added, "Your body, hair, and skin now belong to the Xie family and cannot be casually sunburned." Shun Miao said, "Understood. Jingzhe, go and bring an outer coat over." Xie Jingxing then gave up. When they were outside, Mo Qing and some of the guards from the residence of Prince Rue were already prepared. Ba Jiao and the rest were also there. Jingzhe and Guyu did not need to follow up today, and Xie Jingxing also transferred a female guard from the MOU army, Jin Xiang, and Ba Jiao to act as Shun Miao's personal maid to protect her safety. The more thorough Xie Jingxing's arrangements were, the more uneasy Shen Miao's heart was. Today's imperial hunt coincided with the 60th year ceremony, so she had to come even if she did not want to. But even if there was no such thing, Shen Miao would not stay in the residence of Prince Rue by herself. Not because of anything else, but because her right eyelid kept twitching nonstop, as if it was indicating that something was going to happen. When Xie Jingxing saw her preoccupied look, he seemed to be in deep thoughts and said as he walked towards the door with Shen Miao, "Why are you so depressed?" Shen Miao said, "Always feel that one's heart is not at ease. Your husband's life is good." His lips hooked up, for need not worry. Shen Miao rolled her eyes at him, but seeing that there was no horse carriage at the door, she asked, "The horse carriage is not brought over?" Xie Jingxing smiled and pulled Shen Miao to the door. Mo Qing led a horse forward, and Xie Jingxing flipped up the horse before suddenly pulling Shen Miao's hand. Shen Miao was caught off guard as she was pulled up the horse and was encircled in Xie Jingxing's embrace. "The horse carriage is too slow." He looked down at Shen Miao and said unhurriedly, "You know archery, but do you know how to ride a horse?" Just as Shen Miao wanted to speak, Xie Jingxing interrupted her words. "It is all right if one do not know. Your husband will teach you." Finishing, he whipped the horse, and the horse neighed and galloped away. Xie Jingxing's guards seemed to have followed behind, and Shen Miao's back was leaning against Xie Jingxing's embrace. Her heart could not help but be shocked. That horse was also a good steed and ran very fast. Xie Jingxing's equestrian skills were very good, and he chose to take the winding road. The crowd in the marketplace would exclaim when they passed by, and he laughed loudly, but it was extremely arrogant. Shen Miao recalled the first time she saw Xie Jingxing in this lifetime. In front of Guang Wintang's doors, that purple-clad handsome youth was sitting on a tall horse, lazily sizing everyone up. His breath was near her ear, almost on her cheek. His low and joyful laughter came from above her head, and Shen Miao's heart was suddenly infected. In fact, she also yearned for this kind of freedom. She had also stood on the palace walls of the nine-layered palace and looked at the eagles flying high in the distance and the horses running freely under her feet. She yearned for this kind of free and easy life. But for her entire life, she could only be imprisoned in the depths of the palace, guarding the man she didn't love and fighting against each other for the sake of her children. It seemed that she had not been this unbridled for a long time. Shen Miao laughed. "Are you as rude in Longyi as you are in the Ding capital?" "Even more so," Xie Jingxing replied. He lowered his head and swept a glance at her before placing his chin on the top of her head and smiled softly. "You are not as happy in the Ding capital as you are in Longyi." Shen Miao was surprised for a moment before Xie Jingxing continued to smile. "I prefer this kind of shun jiao. "Me too." Shen Miao smiled. Xie Jingxing's movements paused for a moment, and even the horse's movements slowed down. He said, "You also like this kind of me?" Chapter 9-10. "Not so." Shen Miao smiled. "I also like myself like this." Xie Jingxing gritted his teeth. "Shun jiao. In Longyi, those who dare to play tricks on me are all dead." Both of their laughter drifted far away with the summer breeze of Longyi. Among the guards behind, Feng Xiang and Ba Jiao whispered in each other's ears. "Is it not said that Furin's character is cold, and it is our master's wishful thinking? It seems that the relationship is not bad. Furin's character is not cold." Ba Jiao smiled. "Furin is a good person." When the morning sun shone its golden rays over the earth, Shen Miao and Xie Jingxing finally arrived at the hunting grounds. The outer field of the hunting grounds was a flat forest, but the inner field was towards the Luanhua Peak. The Luanhua Peak was a strange peak in Longyi. The mountain was densely covered with forest and was majestic and precipitous. There were many rare, beautiful sceneries and rare animals. Naturally, the journey was very difficult, and there was danger due to the presence of wild beasts. The imperial hunting grounds had set up this area as a hunting ground. This was a rule set by the late emperor. When the late emperor was still alive, according to the rules passed down by the founding emperor in the 60-year ceremony, the current monarch must personally enter the inner field to hunt and only rest when the lion was hunted. with a lion as the sacrifice. When the previous emperors hunted at the Wanhua Peak, they would also encounter danger, but because of the imperial guards following in the forest, it was not a big problem. It was just that the present was not the same as the past. With the imperial guards, it was more dangerous than without. Shen Miao and Xie Jingxing's appearance was undoubtedly eye-catching. When everyone saw that they did not sit in a horse carriage but were riding together, they were all dumbstruck. Emperor Yonglu and Jing Fei had already arrived first. Jing Fei exclaimed in surprise before saying, "As a matron of the imperial family, how can? This is too rude." Emperor Yonglu frowned as he looked at Xie Jingxing, seemingly displeased with his actions. Xie Jingxing helped Shen Miao down from the horse and walked towards Emperor Yonglu in front of everyone. Today, Emperor Yonglu was also wearing a bright yellow riding outfit. Emperor Yonglu was also young and handsome, but his temperament was a little colder. When he was wearing the riding outfit, the two brothers stole the limelight of all the men in the hall. Xie Jingxing, Shen Miao, and Emperor Yonglu bowed, but no one bothered with Jing Fei. When Consort Jing saw it, she bit her lips but suddenly looked at Shen Miao and smiled. Today, Consort Rui Wang Fei followed the prince of first rank to the hunting grounds. Both husband and wife have such deep feelings that they could ride together on the same horse. It really makes one envious. Finishing, she changed the topic. In this way, when Prince Rui enters the inner field, Qin Wang Fei will also follow. Before Shen Miao could reply, Emperor Yonglu frowned and said coldly, "She doesn't need to enter." Jing Fei stilled, as though she didn't expect Emperor Yonglu to suddenly speak. She was still thinking that it would be better if Shen Miao followed Prince Rui into the inner field. There were many ferocious wild beasts in the inner field, and even with Prince Rui's protection, even if Shen Miao was not injured, she would still be in a sorry state because of the shock. That day at Kai Xia's banquet, Shen Miao's unceremonious oath to the Lu family had already reached Jing Fei's ears. Jing Fei was determined to give Shen Miao some hardship, but did not expect that Emperor Yonglu would help Shen Miao. Even though Jing Fei was arrogant, she did not dare to go against Emperor Yonglu openly. However, Shen Miao understood in her heart that Emperor Yonglu was not standing up for her. It was because it was very dangerous for the two brothers to go to the inner field. Perhaps Emperor Yonglu and Xie Jingxing had already arranged everything, and there would be more variables if one more person went in. Most likely Emperor Yonglu was afraid that if she went in, it would affect their plans. Xie Jingxing smiled and glanced at Jing Fei. Even though he did not say anything, Jing Fei could feel the warning intent from that gaze. She did not know why, but other than Emperor Yonglu, she was most afraid of this young prince of first rank. She was even more afraid of Prince Rui than her own father. Chapter 911. Seeing that Imperial Consort Jing no longer spoke, Xie Jingxing held Shen Miao's shoulders and said, "If Imperial older brother is fine, I will bring Jiao around first. She just came to Longyi and is not familiar with the people." Finishing, he did not care what expression Emperor Yonglu had and left with Shen Miao. They had only walked a few steps when they saw Ji Yushu running overexcitedly from afar and stood in front of them in one breath. "Third older brother, sister-in-law." Shen Miao looked at Ji Yushu's bright smiling face and was unable to link this shopkeeper who had opened a pawn shop in Mingqi with the young master of the great Liang Zhuotu family. She asked the question that she always wanted to ask: "Why do you keep calling him third older brother?" Ji Yushu was startled and looked at Xie Jingxing. "Did you not tell sister-in-law?" Seeing Xie Jingxing's non-committal attitude, Ji Yushu scratched his head and smiled at Shen Miao. "Actually, it should be called third Biao older brother. I and third Biao older brother are cousins, and in the ranking of the brothers in the clan, he is the third oldest. Third older brother's Empress mother is my maternal aunt. We are cousins." When Shen Miao heard Ji Yushu speak of the reason, she then understood that Ji Yushu's mother and Xie Jingxing's Empress mother were sisters of the same mother. Ji Yushu was also considered a relative of the imperial family and was Xie Jingxing's cousin. No wonder Xie Jingxing always said that Ji Yushu was not good, but still took care of him. Ji Yushu laughed twice and rubbed his hands. Heard that my mother had also seen sister-in-law. My mother said that sister-in-law is very good, dignified, and virtuous, a daughter of a noble family. If it was not that third older brother took action early, she would complain that I did not marry a beauty like sister-in-law back in Mingqi. Xie Jingxing calmly said, Ji Yushu, do you want to go to the tower prison? I'm only joking. Ji Yushu jumped up and ran like his, but was on fire. Heard that Gao Yang also came today. I will go and see him. Sister-in-law, you slowly play. He disappeared far away. Shen Miao did not know whether to laugh or cry and turned to ask Xie Jingxing. Gao Yang also came? Why did I not see him? He's an official, so he probably came late. He then added, Gao Yang is the Minister of Defense. Shen Miao smiled. I know, you are quite capable to be able to inquire about Gao Yang's identity. Xie Jingxing said with a smile that was not a smile. Shen Miao's heart moved, and she was speechless. She knew of Gao Yang's identity because in the previous lifetime, when Ming Qi came to pay tribute, the one who came was not Xie Jingxing, but Gao Yang. At that time, as Ding Wangfei, she had also seen Gao Yang. In this life, Xie Jingxing had never told her about Gao Yang's identity. It seemed that from the beginning, Shen Miao's attitude was that she had long known that Gao Yang was Xie Jingxing's people. Fortunately, Xie Jingxing did not continue to be entangled on this issue and said, when the hunt starts, you will follow me to the outskirts and hunt some rabbits and wild storks. I will go with Imperial Brother to the inner field at 9 o'clock. I will leave the Imperial bodyguards for you. You can stroll around the inner field as you please. Just stay outside. Pausing, she then said, Emu also came today, and I let Ji Yushu mention her that if I do not return later, you will return to the city with Emu, and she will send you to the residence of the prince of first rank. You did not return later? Shen Miao looked at him suspiciously. Actually, Xie Jingxing had always been very confident in the way he did things. In Mingqi, he was the heir of the residence of the Marquis of Lin, and under the covetous eyes of the Fu family, he was able to complete his own plans with ease. It was enough to show that he was not a person who would rush things. But this time Shen Miao's feeling was really not good, that when she followed Xie Jingxing over today, her tone was filled with suspicion. Do not worry. Imperial older brother and I have already made preparations. He smiled ambiguously. 2 months have not passed. How can I bear to die? Chapter 9:12. Shen Miao pushed him away. She didn't want to accompany Xie Jingxing in being indecent in public. However, when she turned around, she felt a gaze on her. Following the gaze, she saw Madame Yi looking at her that day at Kai Xia's banquet. Madame Yi was wearing light clothes that were convenient for walking and stood far away. She did not avoid Shen Miao's gaze and looked over with a smile. It was just that the gaze made Shen Miao instinctively feel uncomfortable. She asked, Are the Yi family members going to hunt today? Yi Mao is the prime minister, so naturally he will follow. However, the officials will only be in the outer area and will not enter the inner area. Xie Jingxing followed Shen Miao's gaze and found that she was staring at Madame Yi. He asked curiously, You seem to be very concerned about Madame Yi. What happened? I do not know why. Shen Miao frowned. I always feel that the Yi family members do not give me a good feeling. You better be more careful. Imperial older brother has the intention to rope in the Yi family. He is paying attention to every move of the Yi family and did not find anything wrong. Xie Jingxing pondered. Seeing Shen Miao's cautious expression, he comforted her. They will be outside and will not affect the situation. Do not worry. When Shen Miao looked at Madame Yi again, Madame Yi had already turned around to talk to other foreign. She suppressed the uneasiness in her heart and gave up. When the timing was right, the hunt would begin. Today, the officials of Long Yi were not of low status. The officials would accompany the hunt, while the womenfolk would follow to watch the excitement. Those who were more courageous and playful would follow to the outside, while those who were quieter would wait outside. Coincidentally, Lu Wana also came today. Lu Wanner probably dressed up meticulously, as even her riding attire was very exquisite, making her look incomparably delicate and charming. If there was no Shun Miao, she would most likely be the most eye-catching person on this occasion. Consort Jing and Lu Wanner were sisters after all, and were pampered by the Lu family. The temperament of a rich young lady was not fake. It was just that Shun Miao was also here, which made her pink riding attire look frivolous. She looked delicate and charming, but when she stood with Prince Rue, there was a sense of incongruity. It was no wonder, as there was a strange sense of harmony between Xie Jingxing and Shun Miao. Prince Rue was, after all, the younger brother of Emperor Yonglu, a true descendant of the heavens. It was fine as long as he was elegant. But Shun Miao was a young lady of an ordinary official's family in Mingqi. Moreover, it was a military family, yet she had a kind of noble air, dignified and steady feeling. The atmosphere between the two of them was flawless. Not to mention someone like Lu Wanner. Even if it was a celestial immortal who interfered, it would not be a big deal. Lu Wanner was completely unaware of it and walked over to Shun Miao under everyone's strange gaze. Even though she was speaking to Shun Miao, her eyes were glued to Xie Jingxing. Her voice was delicate and sweet. When she pinched her throat to speak, it was almost as sweet as honey. Princess, I didn't expect to meet you here today. On the day of the Caixia banquet, the princess and I felt like old friends at first sight. I thought that I must see you again when I have time. I didn't expect to see you now. It's really fate. Lu Wanner was very polite to Shun Miao's words at this moment. How was there any shadow of her domineering attitude at the Caixia banquet? Shun Miao laughed in her heart. What exactly was Lu Wanner thinking in her mind? Could it be that Xie Jingxing would believe whatever she said? Not to mention that there were other Furins in the Lu residence. Even Shun Miao herself would not hide anything and tell the truth to Xie Jingxing. What Lu Wanner showed was not feeling like old friends at first sight, but hatred to the bones. As Lu Wanner was speaking, she did not wait for Shun Miao to reply and looked at Xie Jingxing. Her beautiful eyes were filled with undisguised affection as she said in a soft voice, Prince Rue looked very awe-inspiring today. Earlier in older sister's palace, and at that time Prince Rue had praised Wanner's qin skills to be outstanding. Now Wanner is diligently practicing the qin and has improved a lot. One do not know when Your Highness Prince Rue will be free to give Wanner a few pointers. Chapter 9:13. Shun Miao was startled and involuntarily looked at Xie Jingxing. In front of Xie Jingxing, Lu Wanner would not lie. Xie Jingxing actually really heard Lu Wanner play the zither, and he even praised Lu Wanner for her outstanding zither skills. Seeing Shun Miao's suspicious gaze, Xie Jingxing's lips slightly hooked up and smiled evilly. Oh, are you unhappy? Shun Miao turned away. Xie Jingxing shrugged his shoulders, and when he looked at Lu Wanner again, his expression had changed. His brows were handsome, and his eyes were slender. He was still speaking lazily, but his smile had already disappeared. When I was accompanying Imperial Brother to talk, I met Jing Fei. Jing Fei said that 4th Miss Lu was playing the zither in Jinghua Palace and wanted Imperial Brother to go listen. That day, this king heard that it was comparable to a crow. 4th Miss Lu, can't you tell the difference between sarcasm and flattery? I do need a great teacher to give me some pointers. Shun Miao almost could not hold back her laughter as she did not discover that Lu Wanner was actually so stupid. Xie Jingxing had never given face when he spoke, so why would he care if there was anyone around? Lu Wanner's face immediately turned red. In fact, at that time in Jinghua Palace, after she finished playing the zither, she was looking at Prince Rue with her heart thumping nonstop. She was addicted to Prince Rue's handsome appearance. So how could she listen to what Prince Rue was saying? She did not hear it clearly and thought that Prince Rue was praising her. Now that Prince Rue had pointed it out, she seemed to be a joke, and Lu Wanner was instantly stunned. Xie Jingxing leisurely swept a glance at her and said, Also, this prince is the emperor's brother, so 4th Lu young lady should not mention about going to the imperial concubine's palace in the future. If one did not know, They would think that fourth Lu young lady was deliberately instigating. This kind of crime, this prince is not able to bear it. Finishing, he pulled Shin Miao and left, leaving Lu Wanner alone at the same spot. Shin Miao felt that Lu Wanner was so silly that she was somewhat pitiful and asked Xie Jingxing, "The Lu family is so powerful. How is it that the young lady that was brought up is like this?" No matter if it was Jing Fei or Lu Wanner, they were comparable to Shin Miao in the past. It was just that Shen Miao was deliberately raised up by the second and third household of the Shen family to have that kind of temperament. This Lu Wanner and Jing Fei were Lu Furin's biological daughters. Xie Jingxing said, full of thoughts on the fight in court, one naturally neglected to discipline one's children. Moreover, the Lu family has always been tolerant towards their daughters. They're just trying their best to cultivate their men. Shin Miao then understood that with the Lu family's business, the young ladies in the family would not have to worry about food and clothing for the rest of their lives. Thus, it was not a problem to be a little arrogant and willful, as there was the support of the maternal family. As he spoke, Xie Jingxing had already pulled Shen Miao to the edge of the hunting ground. The courtiers and some womenfolk who wanted to liven things up had already picked out their horses. When Xie Jingxing approached, Tai Yi brought 2 horses over. One was a tall black steed, and the other was a slightly shorter maroon pony. Xie Jingxing helped Shin Miao onto the date red horse before he himself got onto the black horse. Emperor Yong Li's side also started to move. The Imperial Guard were ready to follow Emperor Yong Lu in. The drummer began to beat the drum rhythmically, as if he was playing some ancient music. The drum beats became more and more rapid. Finally, an archer standing on a high platform shot an arrow. The arrow flew straight and hit a golden fruit hanging in the distance. The drummer hammered the drum fiercely. The hunt had begun. Xie Jingxing brought Shen Miao to the outer field, and Mo Qing and the rest followed beside him. When one entered the hunting ground, one could bring along a few guards. But there was no danger in the outer field, and it was broad daylight, so nothing would happen. It was just a precaution to bring along. "When will you enter the inner field?" Shen Miao asked Xie Jingxing as she rode the horse. She had not ridden a horse for a long time, but the horse she was riding was considered docile, and it was much easier for her to control it. "Imperial older brother will give me the signal later. I will leave at that time." Xie Jingxing sat up straight. "I can still accompany you to walk around now. Do you want to fight a fox?" "Shen Miao, fox." Xie Jingxing stretched out his hand to pull her reins. "Follow me." Xie Jingxing was an expert in hunting, and Shen Miao did not doubt that if he was not the great Liang's Prince Rue and was just an ordinary mountain villager, just by relying on his hunting skills, he would be able to become rich. Shen Miao had always felt that it was just Shun Xiu's boasting about shooting a willow tree from 100 steps away, but today she witnessed it with her own eyes. Xie Jingxing's aim was very good, and almost every shot hit the target. In just a short period of time, their horses were already piled with prey. Even though they were all small beasts, it was still hard to come by. "What else do you want to fight?" Xie Jingxing smiled proudly. "I will help you hunt them." Just as Shen Miao was about to speak, she saw Song Yang rushing over from the other side. He said breathlessly, "Master, it is not good. The Emperor has entered the inner field." Just now Tai Yi and I were searching, but did not see the Emperor's shadow, and only saw horse hoof prints at the bottom of the lawn flower peak. "Inner field?" Xie Jingxing frowned. Without giving the signal, he went to the inner field. His eyes flashed, and he suddenly growled, "This is bad." Chapter 9:14. Damn it! Xie Jingxing suddenly turned back and instructed Mo Qing and the rest. "All of you escort Furin out of the outer grounds. Tai Yi, follow me." Shen Miao said, "You want to go to the inner grounds now?" The uneasy feeling in her heart became heavier and heavier, to the point that Shen Miao almost had the urge to pull Xie Jingxing and not let him leave. Xie Jingxing looked at her deeply, and for the first time, his eyes were tainted with seriousness. "There is a change in the plan." Shen Miao clenched her fists and looked at him. "I will wait for your return." Xie Jingxing did not speak anymore and turned the horse's head. He whipped the horse, and Tai Yi followed closely behind. Both of them gradually went far away, and one could no longer see their figures in the dust from the horse's hooves. Shen Miao held the reins tightly as she sat on the horse's back. At this time, she no longer had the mood to stroll around the outer grounds. And Mo Qing said, "Foreign, let us return." Shen Miao nodded her head, and Mo Qing and a group of guards escorted Shen Miao away. Even so, Shen Miao's heart was still thumping nonstop. She tried her best to calm herself down. She carefully pondered over every detail of the matter. Today's matter seemed to be filled with hidden dangers. Emperor Yong Li's position in the Great Liang Imperial Court was not as stable as imagined. Among them, the Liu family soldiers were the leaders, and there was a faint intention to rebel. Most importantly, the Liu family seemed to have served the late emperor previously. Could it be that there was discord between Emperor Yongliu and the late emperor? Just like how some emperors were not willing to pass the throne to a certain son. Could it be that Emperor Yongli's position was not obtained properly, and some methods were used which made the late emperor hold a grudge in his heart? After 100 years, he still laid out a big net, just to pull him down one day? Xie Jingxing and Emperor Yongliu should have made some arrangements for this, but one did not know why Emperor Yongliu entered the inner grounds alone and headed towards the Luanhua Peak. There were only two possibilities. One was that someone in the Imperial Guards coerced Emperor Yongliu, and Emperor Yongliu was forced to enter the inner grounds in advance. Two was that this was Emperor Yongli's own idea. He should have made a certain decision, but did not discuss it with Xie Jingxing. Shen Miao felt that it should be the second, because there were still some officials and other people walking in the outer field. Even if the Imperial Guards had ulterior motives, they would not choose to make a move here. They would definitely wait for Emperor Yongliu to enter the inner field before making a move. But why did Emperor Yongliu want to enter in advance? And what decision did he make to make Xie Jingxing so nervous? Shen Miao had never seen such a serious expression on Xie Jingxing's face before. She followed the horse stance in a daze and happened to see an eagle flying in the sky, letting out a long cry. Her heart suddenly quivered, and an unbelievable thought emerged in her mind. However, that thought was quickly denied by her. She shook her head and secretly patted her chest. When he exited the outer courtyard, he saw Madame Ji at a glance. Madame Ji did not go out with Lord Ji to hunt, but waited outside. Shen Miao did not know anyone in Longyi, so she went up to greet Ji Foreign. "Qin Wang Fei, why did you come out so early?" Madame Ji smiled. "I thought you would stay inside to play for a while longer. There are many foxes in the outer field. If one is lucky, one can hunt a rare black fox and use its skin to make a scarf. It is warm and beautiful." Shen Miao smiled slightly. "I'm only going in with them to join in the fun and do not know how to hunt." She then looked at Ji Foreign and said, "Foreign does not have to call me Wang Fei, Wang Fei. After all, we are relatives. Just call me Jianyang. I can also call Foreign Emu with a thick face." Ji Foreign stilled and then smiled even more warmly. "So Jingxing has already told you. Since that is the case, I will not do those superficial things and just call you Jianyang." Chapter 9:15. Shen Miao smiled. Luo Shuiyin did not have any sisters and only brothers. Thus she only had a Jiujiu and Nani Mu. Now that there was an Emu, it was indeed fresh. But looking at Ji Foreign's dignified and decent bearing, it seemed that she was a person who knew the situation and spoke very straightforwardly. Shen Miao changed her thoughts and felt that it was so. Otherwise, how could Ji Yushu's temperament be raised? Ji Foreign pulled Shen Miao's hand and said as they walked to the other side, "Today, Jingxing and Xingji will go to the inner field to hunt, and you will wait outside with me. When the sun has set, they should be back. At that time, the two of you can go to the Ji residence and have a meal together. Speaking of which, ever since Jingxing came back this time, he has not come to our residence for a meal." Shen Miao smiled and complied. In a blink of an eye, she thought of Xie Jingxing and suddenly became somewhat worried and asked, "Yin Mu, is the fight in the inner field dangerous or not?" One fear that it is not easy to hunt a male lion. Ji Foreign sighed. These are the rules that were set since the founding of the country. After so many years, it was originally going to be abolished, but at the end the late emperor. Her tone suddenly paused and looked at Shun Miao before smiling. You do not need to worry, as there is still the Imperial Guards. Even though the beasts are fierce, those guards are not to be trifled with. Moreover, both of them have martial arts and are not idle people without the strength to truss a chicken. Their self-protection skills are more than enough. When Xin Miao heard it, she also smiled, but her heart was thinking that it seemed that Ji Foreign did not know about it. If she knew about it, she would definitely not show such a relaxed expression. Those Imperial Guards were also not as safe as they looked on the surface. Ji Foreign was not a person who could discuss things, and Xin Miao was somewhat regretful at this moment. She should have called Pei Lang along so that at least things could still be discussed. She did not have any acquaintances in Long Yi and did not know anything about Xie Jingxing's arrangements, so it would not be good to rashly make arrangements. At the edge of the outer field, far away from the bushes, there was an arbor that was set up immediately. Because the ones who came today were the nobility, there were a lot of ice cubes that were brought over. At this moment, it was very cool, and some of the young ladies and Furins were sitting inside, drinking tea and eating snacks. Occasionally, they would see their own family members coming back with some game and would feel excited as they cheered and jumped up to show off. In the end, he treated it as a new form of entertainment. Xin Miao's heart, however, gradually sunk as she looked at the misty Hualuan Peak in the distance. The Hualuan Peak was steep, and one could not see the end of it. Everyone here were chatting happily, but who knew if there was a life and death struggle going on inside? Or was it some kind of fierce battle? Was the prey really just a lion or a golden dragon from the nine heavens? Just as she was thinking, someone walked over from the opposite side. Xin Miao looked up and saw that it was the astute Madame Yi. Madame Yi walked to Madame Ji's side and sat down. She looked at Madame Ji and smiled. Why didn't you go in as well? How could I know how to hunt? I'm just watching. Madame Ji also laughed. Although the Ji family and the Yi family did not have much contact, they still had to give face. After all, Yi Maocai's official position was not much different from Ji's was. In fact, it might even be slightly higher. Madame Ji asked, Even Madame Yi is not going in? I will not go. Madame Yi waved her hands. My body is weak and cannot stand the jolting of the horse. Her gaze landed on Shun Miao and said, Why did Qin Wang Fei not go in? Did you not see Prince Qin Wang accompanying Qin Wang Fei to go in? Why did you not play a little longer? Shun Miao's heart moved. Madame Ye's words seemed to be probing something. Could it be that she knew a little about what happened in the inner field today? The Liu and Yi family status in Long Yi was subtle, and it was worth paying attention to. She said, The sun was too strong, and the outer field made me dizzy, so I came back first. She then put on a slightly disgusted look. Moreover, I do not like to see scenes of killing. Chapter 9:16. Ji Foreign smiled. Princess Rue is soft-hearted, but it is not surprising. Even an ordinary female would not be willing to see a rabbit being killed. Seemingly afraid that Yi Foreign would continue to interrogate Shun Miao, Ji Foreign deliberately changed the topic and asked Yi Foreign, Speaking of which, I heard that young Master Yi suffered from pain a few days ago. Is it better? Young Master, he naturally referred to the D son that was given birth by the concubine of the Yi family and brought up under Yi Foreign's name. When Yi Foreign heard this, she said, It is still all right. It is an old problem. When it rains, it will be very painful. There is no solution even after so many years. Her tone was indifferent. Shun Miao later found out from Octagon Jiao that this young Master Yi was the D son of the Yi family on the surface. The servants were very respectful to him, but secretly they felt that he did not have a future. Yi Foreign only treated him on the surface, but never really cared about him. Shun Miao felt that this young Master Yi that she had never met was a little pitiful. Ji Foreign and Yi Foreign continued to pull each other. Most likely it was to divert Yi Foreign's attention. In the end, Yi Foreign seemed to be somewhat impatient and got up to leave. Shun Miao and Ji Foreign then sat together and waited. The sun gradually set, but there was still no sign of Emperor Yonglu and Xie Jingxing. Shen Miao instructed Mo Qing, "Go and inquire if there is any news of them." Ji Foreign smiled, "Do not worry. There have been times like this before. Due to the need for patience in hunting, time passes in a flash. The path to Hualuan Peak is too steep, and it is not easy to walk after dark. One would have to wait until the next day to return." Even though she said so, the slight anxiety in her eyes was captured by Shen Miao. Shen Miao did not know if she was too sensitive. If she did not know about Xie Jingxing's previous matters, she would really be at ease. But this time she already had a bad premonition and knew that Xie Jingxing's trip was not as easy as it looked on the surface. Her heart tightened. After the sun set, the sky gradually darkened. The emperor had not returned. Other than a few young ladies and womenfolk who had already returned, the officials were still around the hunting grounds. Shen Miao asked Ji Foreign if this was the first time such a situation occurred. Ji Foreign replied, "Not really, but it was very rare in the past. Some of the officials had already set up camp, using long cloth to make something like a tent. Even though it was summer, there would still be dew in the night, so they were afraid of catching a cold. The Ji family also made such a tent." Shen Miao was still walking outside when she saw Lu Wan'er standing not far away and talking to a middle-aged man. It seemed like she was acting coquettishly or pleading, but the man was unmoved. Immediately after, Lu Wan'er was forcefully pulled onto the carriage and escorted away by a group of guards. Lu Wan'er probably wanted to stay here, but this man didn't allow it. Shen Miao was about to leave when the man seemed to feel Shen Miao's gaze and suddenly turned his head, revealing a fiendish face. He was tall and sturdy like a bear. His face was bloodthirsty, and he seemed to have a violent temper. He looked at Shen Miao with a gloomy gaze. Octagon Anise said, "That's the master of the Lu family, General Lu Zhengchun." Shen Miao suddenly realized that this was Lu Wan'er's father, the military general of the Lu family. Then she was surprised. As a military general, Shen Xian was also very valiant, but he did not look as ruthless as this person. It was as if he could not conceal the murderous intent in his heart. He was a natural god of death. Shen Miao previously found it strange that Lu Foreign, Lu Wan'er, and Jing Fei did not look smart. How did the Lu family maintain such a reputation and status in Longyi? Now that she saw Lu Zhengchun, she understood. With such a god of death, it was no wonder that Emperor Yong Lu could not easily make a move against the Lu family. Lu Zhengchun staying here, could it be that he was also waiting for a result on Wanhua Peak? Shen Miao pondered. Her gaze swept past Lu Zhengchun, and she turned to leave. Chapter 9:17. The Lu family and Madame Yi were here. Yi Maokai had also returned and was discussing something with Madame Yi. Both the Lu and Yi families were present. If something really happened to Emperor Yonglu here, the Lu and Yi families would not take the opportunity to do something disgraceful. Looking around, some of the officials had already entered their tents and were chatting with their wives. They treated this hunt as a fun game. They were only waiting for Emperor Yonglu and Xie Jingxing to bring back the lion as an offering for the ceremony. Shen Miao stopped and looked at the sky. The stars were quiet and the summer breeze was refreshing. But was this night really as peaceful as it looked? Ji Foreign called her, "Jianyang, it's cold outside. Come into the tent." Shen Miao smiled and went in. Master Ji was not in the tent. The officials sat together in groups of 3 or 5, drinking and chatting. It was a rare moment of leisure, and they relaxed. Ji Foreign poured a cup of hot tea for Shen Miao and said, "Don't worry, they will be fine. But if you catch a cold and Jingxing questions me, I will not be able to bear the responsibility." Shen Miao smiled and said he wouldn't dare. She then thought of something and hesitated before saying, "His Highness's relationship with the late emperor did not seem to be very good." Hearing this, Ji Foreign was stunned. She smiled and said, "Why did you suddenly ask about the late emperor?" Even though Ji Foreign tried her best to conceal it, Shen Miao could still feel the flash of hatred in Ji Foreign. Shen Miao had always been curious about the late emperor's role in Xie Jingxing and Emperor Yongli's lives in the Longyi court. Since Ji Foreign and the late Empress were sisters, she must have some understanding of the late Emperor. Could she get some information about the late Emperor from Ji Foreign? Shen Miao did not hide it and said, I heard His Highness mention a little, but it was not clear. I just felt it was strange. Ji Foreign looked at her in surprise and said, I did not expect him to tell you about this. She then smiled and said, in the end, this is Jing Xing's family matter. If I tell you, it will not be good. Another day, you can sit with Jing Xing and tell him honestly. Then you will know the details. This meant that she was not willing to say. But because of Ji Foreign's attitude, Shen Miao's heart confirmed her conjecture. Thinking about it, the late emperor really did not get along with the Xie Jingxing brothers. Looking at Ji Foreign's attitude, she probably did not treat the late emperor's paternal family very well. Thinking about all these in her heart, Ji Foreign also sank into contemplation and only reacted after a long time before speaking to Shen Miao. AI. Everything is fine, so there is no need to mention about these. Jianyang, you should also sleep for a while. What if they come back tomorrow morning and you are tired instead? What if you hurt your body? How would Shen Miao be able to sleep at this time? She had her mind on the matter and said, I will sit for a while more. Anyway, I cannot sleep. Seeing her stubbornness, Madame Ji did not continue to persuade her. After talking for a while, Ji Foreign felt tired. She was not as young as Shen Miao and could not stay up all night, so after a while she dozed off in the tent. Shen Miao covered her with the cloak and sat in the tent. Who knew that she would sit for an entire night? The morning light was bright, and there were sounds of birds and beasts chirping coming from the distant forest. Master Ji was drinking with his colleagues at the other end yesterday and had already sobered up. He walked towards the tent and coincidentally met Shen Miao opening the tent door to leave. Unconsciously surprised, Shen Miao smiled at him and said, Yu Mu has not woken up and is currently sleeping. Yu Fu's voice should be softer. Master Ji nodded his head and said to her, Go and eat something first. Chapter 9:18. Shen Miao complied and walked out on her own. Some of the Furins outside had already woken up and their expressions showed their fatigue. They were all noble people, so it was impossible for them to make do with their tents. Those who were especially pampered had already returned to their residences last night, and those who stayed behind were either to fawn on Emperor Yonglu or to experience this rare leisure time. Fennel served a bowl of porridge to Shen Miao. When Emperor Yonglu came out, a few chefs from the palace came over to specially cook for these officials and womenfolk. As Shen Miao drank the porridge, she asked Octagonal Anise, Is there still no news from His Highness? Octagonal Anise shook his head. Shen Miao looked into the distance. The sun had already emerged from the top of the mountain, and after another 2 hours, the sky would be completely bright. Even if Xie Jingxing and the rest spent a night on the mountain, they should be back by now. There was no precedent of hunting on the mountain for an entire 2 days. Although they did not just hunt. Is there no signal in your MOU army? Shen Miao asked. This time your master did not discuss with you about the matter. Once the matter is successful, what signal will be released to inform? Octagonal Anise and Fennel were surprised for a moment before they looked at each other and shook their heads at the same time. Fennel said, Master did not tell these 2 servants about the plan this time. Shen Miao was helpless and could only say, One do not know what is the situation now. Looking at Lu Zhengchun, who was stretching his waist, and Yi Maokai at the other end, she felt a headache. Just as she was thinking, she saw a familiar figure walking past from the other end. Shen Miao was surprised for a moment and could not care about eating the porridge anymore. She placed the bowl in Octagonal Anise's hands and quickly chased up to that person. That person turned back, and it was Ji Yushu. Shen Miao's heart was filled with 1,000 thoughts, so she pulled Ji Yushu to a corner where no one could see and asked him, Why did you come back? Ji Yushu asked, What is sister-in-law's meaning? Shen Miao frowned. Are you not with Xie Jingxing? Ji Yushu was surprised. No. I am in the outer field, and only the imperial family can enter the inner field. Even though I am half a relative of the imperial family, I am still not qualified. Shen Miao found it strange. She thought that Ji Yushu came over to help Xie Jingxing. Now that Ji Yushu did not go, could it be that Xie Jingxing and Emperor Yongle were going to fight one-on-one? She said, "Tell me honestly, what does Xie Jingxing want to do this time?" Ji Yushu touched his nose in grievance. "Sister-in-law, you really asked the wrong person. Whenever third brother wanted to do something big, he would never bring me along. The more dangerous it was, the more he wouldn't let me touch it. Initially in Mingqi, I was only in charge of the Feng Xian pawn shop's food and drink, and did not allow me to intervene in other matters. Yesterday at the hunting ground, Gao Yang was with him. Third brother always brings Gao Yang along if there's anything. I wanted to follow, but third brother wouldn't let me." "Gao Yang?" Shen Miao asked. "Gao Yang is also an official. How will he go?" Gao Yang disguised himself as third older brother's personal attendant and followed along. Ji Yushu said, "He is quick-witted and knows medical skills, so if anything happens, he would be able to help." Shen Miao's heart tightened. Gao Yang had medical skills, so Xie Jingxing brought along with him. But could it be that the situation was so dangerous? She then looked at Ji Yushu and understood in her heart. Even though Xie Jingxing's mouth was bad, he was extremely protective in his bones. In any case, Ji Yushu was his Biao younger brother, just like Su Mingfeng in the past. The best way to protect Ji Yushu was not to involve him, and perhaps it was to protect the Ji family. Ji Yushu looked at Shen Miao's expression, and this time he became smarter. He asked, "Sister-in-law, is it that something happened to third older brother?" Shen Miao said, "No. It is just that I see that he did not return for a long time, and my heart is anxious." Chapter 919. Impossible. Ji Yushu said resolutely and decisively, "Sister-in-law is not a person who has no sense of propriety. You were just too strange just now. Yesterday, I went to look for Gao Yang, but Gao Yang was also mysterious. Every time something happens to them, it was still all right when they were in Mingqi, but after returning to Longyi, he drew a clear line with me. Could it be that he wanted to do something by himself?" Shen Miao looked at Ji Yushu's flustered and exasperated look, and her heart sighed with sorrow. Xie Jingxing was used to putting aside the surrounding people and bear everything by himself, such as the Marquis of Lin and Princess Rong Xian and Su Mingfeng in the Ding capital. Now it was Ji Yushu's turn, but some things were indeed a blessing in disguise. She said, "Sorry, I am unable to answer you, because I also do not know what he wants to do. Hunting in the inner field, only the imperial family can enter. Could it be that there is danger?" Ji Yushu said, "Third older brother and his majesty are always strange." "Sister-in-law, you really do not know?" "Do not know what?" Without waiting for Shen Miao to answer, a female voice was heard from behind, and it was Ji Foreign walking over. One did not know how long she had been listening here. She looked at Ji Yushu and then looked at Shen Miao, and her expression became strange. She said, "What happened to Xing Ji and Jing Xing? What do you mean by what you just said?" Ji Foreign originally wanted to call Shen Miao over to return to the city with her, but who knew that she coincidentally saw Shen Miao grabbing Ji Yushu over. Star Anise and Fennel were busy guarding Lu Chun and Yi Mao Kai, and did not guard against Ji Foreign, but Ji Foreign heard the conversation between Shen Miao and Ji Yushu. Ji Yushu said, "Mother, nothing much. I am playing with sister-in-law. Don't try to fool your mother." Ji Foreign looked at Ji Yushu and said angrily, "Initially let you go to Mingqi to look for Jing Xing, but you did not return. One did not know what you were doing in Mingqi. I do not care what you do, but you are after all the young master of the Ji family. I ask you, what do you know? Why did you say those words? Jing Xing and Xing Ji. Is there danger?" Ji Yushu was speechless from his mother's words and looked at Shen Miao for help. Shen Miao quickly said, "Imu, you have misunderstood. Yushu and I were just playing. It was just that His Highness did not return at this time, and his heart was somewhat anxious, so he asked Yushu. Yushu does not know anything, and it was I who thought too much. Yumu must not blame him." Ji Foreign looked at Shen Miao again, and her eyes were a little stern. "Jiaonyang, this matter is not a small matter. As they were talking, Octagonal Anise suddenly ran over. He ignored Madame G's presence and said, "Madam, they're back. His Majesty has left the mountain." It was as if Ji Yushu was granted amnesty and quickly said to Ji Foreign, "Look, mother, don't let your imagination run wild. Let's go. Let's go see the lion that third brother and his Majesty are hunting." Finished speaking, she ran away. When Shen Miao heard that Emperor Yonglu and his entourage had returned, she heaved a sigh of relief and smiled at Ji Foreign. "Let's go over too." Ji Foreign still wanted to say something, but when she saw Shen Miao's calm expression, she swallowed her words and sighed, allowing Shen Miao to pull her over. One saw a group of Imperial guards walking out from the outside, and the person leading them was Emperor Yonglu. But what was strange was that Emperor Yonglu did not ride a horse, but walked by himself. Those with sharp eyes could see that the sword at Emperor Yonglu's waist seemed to be a little blood red. But for the Imperial family hunt, it was said that the Emperor personally came to hunt, but in reality, it was an animal etiquette. How could it make the Emperor risk his life to go? It was only the guards pointing arrows at the side, and the Emperor would instruct. And now, the meaning was that Emperor Yonglu personally took action. Emperor Yonglu's expression was as usual, and one could not tell whether he was happy or angry. Imperial concubine Jing waited in the carriage for a long time and immediately went up to greet him lovingly. "Your Majesty finally came out." This concubine had waited here bitterly for an entire night, and even my eyes are red. Emperor Yonglu only glanced at her faintly and did not reply. Shen Miao could see clearly that Yi Maocai's expression was normal, but Lu Zhongchun was somewhat gloomy. The Imperial guards at the back dumped the things that the horses were pulling onto the ground with a bang, instantly causing the surrounding womenfolk to exclaim. That thing was not anything else but the corpse of a huge lion. It was stained with blood, and there were numerous arrow holes on its back and abdomen. It seemed that it had gone through a fierce battle. Immediately, there were courtiers who flattered and came forward to congratulate. "Your Majesty is wise and mighty. It is the fortune of our great Liang." Everyone followed suit and followed along as they knelt down to sing praises. Shen Miao also followed and knelt down. Emperor Yonglu indicated for everyone to rise. But Shen Miao did not see Xie Jingxing's figure. After everyone rose, Lu Zhongchun suddenly spoke. "Your Majesty, why is there only your Majesty and no trace of His Highness Prince Rui?" It seemed that everyone just remembered that Prince Rui was not present. Emperor Yonglu stared closely at Lu Zhongchun, his eyes as cold as ice. "Prince Rui is injured and has returned from the other side to the city for treatment." Everyone was in an uproar. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.